When it comes to everything fantasy football, you have to ask one question. Don't you deserve a fighting chance? And now, welcome to Fighting Chance Live with your hosts, Kevin Tompkins and Scott Fishbowl 9 winner, Gary Haddow.
Welcome in, everybody. It's Fighting Chance Live. I am Kevin Tompkins. You're used to this game by now, but I've got Gary Haddow to my right on the screen. Gary, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. My Scott Fishbowl shirts finally showed up. My wife was like, why the hell do we have 5 shirts? But she was like, we're throwing away some old ones. I'm even throwing away like one of my older Niners shirts. It's just like torn to pieces. So well, Scott Fish is replacing.
I live in these damn things, so
they're so comfortable,
right?
Like, way to go, RotoWear. They really are some of my favorite shirts.
RotoWear is killing it. They're just so topical. They get stuff out like the day of, and yes. They're tirelessly just killing it every time. But enough about RotoWear. As great as they are, we've got a great guest, and it's Sam Holt. Sam, you're killing everything on Twitter. You got Matthew Berry on your one by one. You're killing everything. How are you doing?
I'm great, guys. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, Twitter has been a blur. Fantasy sports has been a blur this summer, but it's been a lot of fun.
I just hope there's a damn season after we're going through all this, and hopefully, COVID hopefully people can just calm down. We can wear masks, get this all under control, and get back to at least a little bit of normalcy here. That
would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, can't make everybody do anything, but we can at least tell you damn people to wear a mask. So, Sam, before we really get into everything here, tell us where we can find you on Twitter and wherever. I know you've got the Fantasy Focus podcast. So tell us about that and anything else you're doing.
Absolutely. So if you guys want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Samantha R. Holt, on Instagram at Sam_awesome. And then I'm a part of the Fantasy Focused crew with those guys, which is awesome. So if you guys could give us a subscribe on YouTube, we'd definitely appreciate it. Over there, we have quite a few shows, which is really awesome to be part of a group of guys that, we all eat and breathe fantasy sports of all kinds. So they've got a NASCAR show that they've been doing, which is, popping because NASCAR is still happening. I've got my one-on-ones, which I try and do interviews with different people in the industry and just highlight, their careers and then different parts about fantasy sports. I just had Michael Rothstein on, ESPN writer for the Lions, good friend of mine. So talked a bit about Matt Stafford on that episode, which was cool, and just about the COVID and how it's going to affect the season. So that was a really fun episode as well. We're doing a lot, actually. Now that I describe it, I'm like, damn, I got a lot of stuff going on.
Did you guys talk about Patricia? I'm always curious about kind of Lions insiders and their views on Patricia.
A little bit about him. I wanted to talk about how much running back by committee we're going to see this coming season. And I mean, that's not going to be any different than years before. I think the difference here is, how are we going to see DeAndre Swift, immediately flow into that routine? And we do know that Matt Patricia likes to do the running game. So I think that we're going to see a lot of that this season. It's just because, with COVID and not being able to practice the way we do normally, by now we would have some insight as far as how the carries are going, how someone is looking on the field, and how they're interacting with the system. It's going to be a very different year because we're not going to have any of that insider info that we would normally have by July. So it'll just be a little bit more of a wait and see. I'm definitely still going to try and stash Swift in a couple leagues if I can, because I feel like that's potential there that I just don't want to miss out on.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have to go shoo my cat away, otherwise you guys will be able to hear her scratching at the door.
Is that what I heard?
That's okay. I have a cat too. He tries to play with the cables in the middle of our show all the time.
Mine are upstairs. My girlfriend's working right now. She's got a workstation up there. So they bother her, but sometimes they come down and try to get on. I got it set up on my ottoman here, so they try to jump up. So you might get a tail here. What was it, Gary? A couple weeks ago, they knocked over my lamp.
They're mischievous. They just want attention. Mine, I'm in a closet here, so I can try and keep the cables away from him when I'm not recording. So I just close the door. But as soon as the door is open, he's like, "The room I can't go in." And he tries to get in all the time.
That's awesome. So before we get into wide receivers, we got some a big signing that just happened. Cam Newton signed a 1-year deal with New England. So let's go with Sam. What are your initial thoughts on New England kind of kicking the tires on Cam Newton?
Well, I mean, it's a spot that I think a couple of us thought he might land. So not super shocking that it happened. I think the 1-year deal is kind of interesting. It's very much like we're going to give you an opportunity. Let's see if you can, pull it for us. The more I think about it, I kind of go back and forth on liking it or hating it. It's right in the middle there for me. I don't like how everyone immediately is saying, though, that he's a top 10 quarterback. Just off the bat, he's not. I mean, we don't know how he's going to play. He was injured for so long. It would be a great wait and see. I mean, I'm very hesitant to give, my seal of approval on someone that's coming off of the injuries that he's had. So I'd love to see it. Do I want him to see it? Absolutely. I would love to make sure that Julian Edelman's value doesn't just go in the toilet, which is where he's going right now in most drafts. People are just completely forgetting he exists. So at least he's got a good quarterback that can obviously get him the ball. He's going to be a target monster for him, which is great. Love that consistency with veterans. So they're going to have that connection. I don't know. I don't hate it, but I just don't see him breaking the top 10 for me. It's fine. 2 QB league, I'd love to try and just throw him on as a second quarterback, but he's not going to be my number 1 quarterback in a single QB league.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to put him high, but honestly, I mean, it's not as if Brady was breaking the bank with all these guys last year, like N'Keal Harry. I think that the pieces get more of a bump than anything.
Yes.
Because, I mean, Stidham to Newton is huge. And I actually would have bet I've been taking Hoyer at the back of all sorts of best ball drafts. He was going to be one of the guys I'm taking late in Scott Fishbowl, all these different things, because I just knew, I believed that Hoyer would be there. Now with Newton, it muddies the water. I think Newton will be the 16-game starter. I'm just going to temper expectations. The one thing that's just so fun to think about is Belichick finally gets this different style quarterback, and he can just try all these different things, and it'll just be fun to see how that works, especially if they can mesh, and if they they do well and Cam signs a longer term deal. That's, to me, it's the type of thing that keeps Belichick in New England for a few more years than maybe Father Time was kind of ticking down on him.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot too. And plus, I love that you bring up other assets taking a bump, because I mean, Sony Michel and James White immediately, their value is still going to be there, because Cam's going to use the running back. He's always done that before. So at least we know that those are positional players that we can still stash and get value out of.
Yeah, definitely saves Edelman's bacon. I think that bumps him up a few spots. And I really like N'Keal Harry. I got him in an SFB mock. That's just happens to be what I've been doing lately. And I got him around 12, 13 or something,
nice.
Maybe even 14. It was super late. I remember even the conversation being I wouldn't really take him earlier, but now that Cam's here, why not take the shot and just see if maybe it really does take time to learn a Belichick system, which, as we all know, is super complicated to learn.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, Cam Newton, I mean, I actually slotted him at QB 20 in my quarterback rankings, at least just on the outset. I want to hear more about, how his list rank and, the surgery that he had, and, how he's healing with that. We don't know anything. We don't know. Yeah. We can speculate all we want, but fact of the matter is we don't know anything right now. So, we'll see what happens with, if there's going to be training camp and whatnot. We'll see some Cam Newton dropping back, hopefully, and hopefully he's healed up. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun to watch, certainly.
Absolutely.
So let's get into some wide receivers here. That's what we're here about. That's why we're here today. So I'm going to just reel off at least my top 4, and then you guys can reel off your top 4. We'll go from there, doing kind of in sections of 4. So there's no surprise. Michael Thomas, he's number 1. Devontae Adams, number 2, Tyreek Hill, number 3, and 4, I have Chris Godwin. What's your top 4, Gary?
So I got Thomas, Adams, Hill, and then for me, it's Julio. I can't put Godwin that high. I know we'll kind of break down these guys, I think, piece by piece, but I'm nervous. I don't know. I just can't see Godwin being able to fully repeat what he did last year.
I'm with you on that one, and I actually keep kind of nudging him down on my list just because he's just not going to get the volume that he did last year with Jameis Winston just slinging it. Brady's far too efficient. He is a surgeon with a scalpel on the field. He doesn't need to have 50 throws. He needs 5, he needs 10, and that's it. And so you're going to get the yards, you're going to get the touchdown, but you're not going to get each individual catch, and PPR, you want that. My top 4 are Michael Thomas. I think he's just the easy number 1 in the receiver position, kind of like how Christian McCaffrey is just the easy running back 1 for a lot of people as well. It's just set it and forget it, number 1. Yeah. For me, number 2, I've got DeAndre Hopkins, and then I've got Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Hopkins, I'm still super excited about. I know that Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray are very different quarterbacks, but I love the volume and I love the potential. So I'm excited to see him with the Cardinals and see what he can do in that offense. He's just such a great playmaker and extending the play. So I kind of give him the edge on that. Devontae Adams, I don't see his role changing much. I feel like Rodgers is going to be playing with, I don't want to say a chip on his shoulder, but I want to say that he's going to be playing for his job, and he's going to be playing consistently and effectively like we know he does. And who does he love better than Devontae Adams? No one, because when we all tried to grab different random receivers last year, hoping for a different breakout number 2, we were all disappointed. So it's going to be Adams all day. And for Tyreek Hill, I have him in my big dynasty league that I'm always talking about on my show, and I just don't see anyone more fast. There's no one faster, no one greater. You can't beat him. Can't catch that guy. Love him.
So I have a question then. From those top 4, is it a tier of Thomas and then a tier of Hopkins, Adams, Hill, or do you even separate that even smaller?
I do think that Thomas is kind of on his own there, and then it's just a slight step down for the other 3, and then I think you can kind of intermix them. So I would say if I had to break down the tiers, it would be just like that. It's tough because I feel like once we see what Hopkins is going to do with Kyler Murray, he could almost go into his own tier with Thomas as well. So I don't know. It's going to be a wait and see, and maybe by the end of next year, it's going to be like we've got even more minute, tiers within the receiving class, which is exciting to hope for.
And it kind of your answer is what I was hoping you would say, in that like Adams and Hopkins to me, like I think a lot of people put Adams, as I do, in the same way because it's just a lock for targets, and I don't know if Hopkins has the same lock for targets. It's the question since the trades occurred. If Hopkins' targets go down, do you believe they will? And 2, if they go down, do you think he's going to make up for it with, being Hopkins, who's just a badass?
I think it's the latter. I think if his targets do go down, which they might, I don't really see them taking that big of a dip though, just because of the way that they've been playing the receivers. And I feel like because of the talent Hopkins is over the receivers they had last year, targets are all going to kind of just slide towards him. But yes, he's just such a crazy athlete. I mean, he can just catch the ball without even looking at it, behind his head, underneath, upside down. We've seen him catch it every which way. So I think that for a young quarterback, it's going to be really helpful to have such a Swiss Army knife of a receiver at his disposal.
Sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be an absolutely fun offense in Arizona, certainly. So of these guys, we're talking about Thomas, Adams, Hill, Julio Jones. Is there any particular draft strategy, Sam, that you're looking to maybe grab one of these? Or are you going to fade the top receivers? What have you been doing in mock drafts, or even just thinking about the position as a whole?
Sure. Well, I know that in drafts, if I have a top 5 draft pick, I'm going running back no matter what. That's just kind of how I've been doing it. And then towards the end of the draft, end of the first round, I'll definitely be going for one of these top 5 receivers. If I can grab them, then I will. And then going the back half of the second round, I'll grab another running back. But it's really hard to miss out on some of these guys. And when we get into the back half of this top 10, those are players that I'm targeting more. If I get one of those weird positions like 10 or 11, and I'm just like, damn it, I don't know what I want to do, and I don't want to miss a running back, I'll tend to get a running back towards that back end of that round. And then maybe even sometimes double up and go double running back with my first 2 picks, just depending on how I slide at the end of that draft. But yeah, if I'm right there in that sweet spot of 6 to 9, I'll grab one of these top guys.
What about you, Gary? What are you doing with the wide receiver position, at least? And I know you've done a lot of drafts.
I think the most realistic outcome is I'm hoping to get Adams and Hill if I'm going to go wide receiver, which I rarely do. Because of all these just like weird, unique drafts that are happening this time of year, I kind of have to remember that like the real drafts that are just PPR, nothing else crazy, that like these guys are going to have crazy value. And that, like you said, the 7 to 9 spot, for me, it's even a little bit further back, almost like the 8. It sounds, man, I felt like an idiot saying that, but whatever. Like the 9 to 11, like it makes a huge difference. Yeah. And
7 and 8 is a huge difference in the pick. It totally is.
Like I'm officially not gonna. I'm gonna take any of these 4 as I can before I take Chubb as my RB2 or my RB1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like when you see like Mixon is always where I'm confused on. Do I want to take Mixon or do I want to take 2 wide receivers and then know that I'm just going to come back and go wide receiver heavy? Running back heavy after that. And I do really like Hopkins. I think I have him only at 5 out of pure respect. I am one of the people that's a little bit more nervous he's going to be lower because that they're going to spread the ball. He is pure talent wise. I mean, he's number 2 in the NFL, number 3 in the NFL in terms of pure talent. And so for me, I want to go with guaranteed targets. I'm going to go with Adams because I'm not going to ever probably take Thomas. And then I want upside and I want Hill because Hill, what was 2 years ago where he was like seesaw, like up and down, and he finished as the wide receiver 2. Last year he was injured. And I personally just believe like Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey are going to set the world on fire this year, as much as I hate saying it.
Why do you hate saying it? We love.
I'm a diehard Niners fan, so
sure, you don't like it for that reason, but for the love of fantasy, my goodness,
like literally, they're like
amazing.
Everybody's second favorite team if they didn't have to admit it out loud, because like the Chiefs are so freaking fun to watch, right?
They're really fun to watch. I had Hill and Kelsey in my league that I won last year, and it was a beautiful thing. I'm not gonna lie.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah. See, the thing with wide receivers, at least for me, is I have no problem waiting because I will just hammer running backs as long as I can. I haven't found myself in many spots to take a Tyreek Hill. I think I might have gotten him in a best ball. But I will take, if I'm at that 7 slot, I've got Kenny Drake as my RB6, and I'm pretty much taking him. So I will take him that high. If I'm 8, he'll fall there too. Miles Sanders, those guys I do like, but just that 3rd, 4th, 5th round is a real sweet spot for wide receivers. Getting that production, just not as good, but just enough where you've got that balance with those running backs that'll put you over the top as far as spreading out talent. But yeah, I'm just not finding myself taking a lot of at least the top 4, top 5, maybe Godwin if I want to switch it up and go, running back, wide receiver. I usually find Godwin in the middle of the 2nd round. But yeah, it's just the position. The position is so deep this year. I mean,
it is.
Yeah,
it's really deep.
You're finding guys like DJ Chark in the 5th. You're finding McLaurin. You're finding just guys like Boyd and Landry in the 6th. It's just an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it too. Embarrassment of riches, especially when you've got, and I love that you bring up Boyd, even though I kind of hate it because of the colors behind me. I am excited to see what the Bengals offense can do for fantasy purposes only. I don't want to see no championship out of the Bengals anytime soon. Let me be clear about these colors.
I don't think anybody's expecting that. They still got their defense that they got to build up, but their offense is definitely on the rise, man.
I think we can just hope for volume in that offense and just a behind defense that we can capitalize on.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about the top 3, and let's get into Julio Jones. Now, it feels like that guy's been disrespected, and we're kind of just waiting for the end of Julio Jones and trying to prognosticate that. And all that Julio Jones has done he's averaged in the last 6 years, 162 targets, 103 catches, over 1,500 yards, 6 touchdowns. The touchdowns, they're going to be spotty, but I mean, let's put some respect on Julio Jones just for the body of work and the offense he's going to be in. I mean, are we just what is going on with Julio Jones? Why isn't he being talked up in that top 4?
I think it's purely just for sparkle. I feel like a lot of these receivers we've talked about have had these kind of big plays, DeAndre Hopkins being one of them, the way that he can extend the play, make crazy catches. And it's almost just like Julio's lost his sexiness. And I agree. I feel like people they don't give him the respect he deserves. This man is like you just said, and it's clear enough in the stats. We know what he's capable of, and he's going to do it every time. Yeah, we wondered about the touchdown bit last year, but, that'll get cleaned up. And, yeah, the poor guy just needs some love. What happened? Did we just get distracted by shiny objects?
Too many people saw #never Julio, and I think that it really needs to switch to #forever Julio, because
I like that.
He's just so damn good. I just thought of that right now.
Taylor Canaveri needs to stop that with the never Julio.
Ryan Hallam too. He was all about that. Never Julio, never Odell.
Forever. Come on. Respect our veterans.
I don't see any reason to think that they're going to take a step back. The only weird thing is the Matt Ryan seesaw. Man, what the hell is a seesaw? Second time.
Easy for you to say.
I mean, but Matt Ryan keeps doing that. He's either like top 5 or he's below 16. And I think that this is a year where he's supposed to dip, right? Because last year he was I think he was top 6, top 7 last year. And so I don't know. I think a lot of people are just so high on Calvin Ridley, and I just don't see the Calvin Ridley hype. I didn't watch him in college. I admit. I think that Julio and he are the perfect complement to each other for their different, skill sets that they have. And I don't know. Julio's going to be here, in my opinion, for another couple of years. So
I think at least another couple for sure. But yeah, I agree. I think it's just the flash of these other players that are taking away from his sparkle. But I do feel like he's right there in that middle of the top 10 conversation. Dropping him out of that just seems like crazy talk to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kevin, I got a question for you then, because we're going to move on from Julio. I want to ask you about Godwin, because Godwin seemed to just have so much hype going out of the season, and then Brady came on, and ultimately then there was a fracture, and it was, no, Godwin is going to ascend to the heavens, and then Godwin is good. Like, he had a good year. And, he'll be top 12. I'm not going to fade him that much, and I'm one of those people in that camp where I feel like I have to respect him from what he did last year to say he needs to be middle of the pack of the top 12. But I don't know. Does Brady hurt him, or does Brady help him?
Brady helps everybody. Let's get that out of the way. Because you've got Jameis Winston, who, he thrived with him last year. He's out the door. Bring in Tom Brady now. Remember Larry Fitzgerald's revitalization in Arizona in the slot? Chris Godwin. There you go. 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns in 14 games. Now the dude gets Tom Brady. He had the 3rd best contested catch rate last year. He was 2nd in fantasy points per game in 14 games. So Chris Godwin, for me, while there's not much more to go with the ceiling, I think he's pretty stable where he is. Okay. They're gonna throw a ton in that offense, unless one of those bad, like Keyshawn Vaughn, unless he emerges or something. But I can't see a world where that team doesn't throw 580 to 600 times. I can't see it. So split up those targets between him and Evans. I think he kind of edges out Evans in the target share, but Chris Godwin, for me, I love to watch him play. I've been watching him since he was at Penn State. I think he was really destined to be, he was really, really good in the slot. Now he's got a guy in Bruce Arians that's just going to pepper him with targets. Tom Brady's going to be worked into that. Maybe Arians and Brady can kind of find a middle ground with how Arians wants to throw the deep ball, and Brady's timing and everything like that. So that's where I am with Godwin. I think he's a slam dunk. I don't think he's going to finish any worse in 16 games than a wide receiver 6. That's where I've got him at 4.
Sam,
I definitely think that all makes sense. I just feel like 4 is just too high for me. It's a little too rich for my blood. I do like that Julian Edelman in 2019, he was the 4th most targeted receiver for New England. So I kind of immediately take those targets and that love for target share from there, and Brady putting that on Godwin, because I do love the type of athlete that he is. Like you said, I feel like he's going to get peppered with targets in this offense. But it's just the volume there that kills me, that he's not going to have. Again, Brady is a far more, efficient quarterback than Jameis Winston ever will be, I think. I don't think that's crazy to say. But he's just not going to get the amount of volume. So for me, that's the only reason I don't have him higher. And the only reason why I keep thinking maybe I want to put him a bit lower, because I feel like Brady has quite a few weapons at his disposal too. So different there than he had in New England. He didn't really have a ton. I mean, yeah, N'Keal Harry was there, but he didn't quite get the sync down with him. So he's got a lot more veteran players that know exactly where they need to be for someone like him. So that's why I'm also a little bit hesitant, just because he's not the number one guy. He's got options. And he's got his best bud there in Gronk.
If it wasn't for just the outright respect of what he did last year with the 1,309, like he should be lower. Using the Julian Edelman, top 4, fine. But like you said, no one else is there. So I feel like he just has so much competition. And I think they were sleeping on Tampa Bay's defense. Like, they weren't that great last year, and they added some pieces. They got better. They're healthier. Like, I think they're going to be better. I think that they added to their offensive line. They're going to run more than we think. Like, they added Keyshawn Vaughn to complement Rojo instead of just having it being Rojo. I mean, they tried out Dare Gumbawale. They had Peyton Barber. I think they have much more of a defined identity this year of trying to be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. The flip side to that narrative, which is why, like, I want to have Godwin and Evans higher, is just the Brady narrative. Like, I wanted to light the world on fire and just say, like, screw you, Bill. This is me. Like, I'm the GOAT. You can be your own GOAT, but I'm the GOAT quarterback, and just ball out. And I think that's what, like, we're wanting to see happen, and therefore we have Godwin's as high as we do. In my mind, and I don't have it this way, like, I have Godwin 7, I have Evans 10. It probably makes more sense to put just Godwin's and Evans back-to-back in rankings.
I can see the argument there. And also, isn't the Super Bowl supposed to be in Tampa Bay this year?
Is it? Oh my God.
I think it's supposed to be in Florida. So I feel like that's part of the narrative too, is like, set the world on fire. Screw it. Brady's just going to go there and then win a Super Bowl in his new city, and just piss off everyone. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. Brady tends to do that to my Steelers. Tends to piss off.
Oh my gosh. And we've never seen it before. We've never had the home team take it. And if he was able to do that, oh my God, that'd be so
cherry on top of an amazing career, and just, middle finger to the rest of us, don't even try. I got this. So totally. I totally get that. But yeah. And then for me, I've got Evans at 12. So not showing a lot of love for Evans myself. And I think it's just because of the target share, and I want to see how that shakes out. Like I said, he's got so many options, and Brady's always been someone, and I don't know if this is also just because of Bill Belichick and the way he plays the ball, but he spreads the ball around very evenly. Aside from Edelman being the main guy for him last year, he's just been too quick to distribute his targets and utilize everything he has at his disposal, which I feel like, based on the way that they rounded out Tampa Bay, that's kind of how they're going to play it going forward, play to his strengths. So it's kind of hard for me to have him higher.
And that's exactly why I think Godwin should be a little bit even further back. Is Brady doesn't lock on to someone. Brady takes the throw that's open.
Yeah.
Sorry, absolutely. So, it's all right. You know what? We're splitting hairs.
Totally, right?
Well, you are. But that's what you got to do. You got to nitpick the top 10 so that people are like, okay, well, if I'm in this decision, like, you're sitting there at the 7th or 8th pick, who do I take?
Godwin will be my least owned wide receiver out of this top 12 group.
Yeah, I don't want that frustration. I don't want that headache.
Yep.
Well, we're not going to talk about DJ Moore yet, but we'll talk about someone you actually do like, Gary. Yes. Kenny Golladay.
Love him.
Let's put some respect on his name, because when Stafford was playing weeks 1 through, I believe, 9, he was wide receiver 11. He was getting, he was starting that true breakout. And then Stafford got hurt, out for the year. And then, Kenny Golladay still did pretty well with whatever bum they got off the street, throwing the ball to him, David Blau, and I can't even remember, but they can't be that good. I can't even remember who.
Driscoll, okay. Jeff Driscoll. No, it wasn't Driscoll. It was the other one. No, you're right. It was Blau and then the other guy. But anyway, I can't remember his name either as I interrupt you.
Well, you're fine. Gary, please, I want you to wax poetic on Kenny Golladay for us. Regale us with your tale.
Well, so when Stafford was there, I mean, he was crushing it. Yeah, like he had some games where he would disappear, and that's really the downside. But I mean, he's still a relatively young wide receiver. This will be his, I believe, 4th year in the NFL. And ultimately, we're not like we have to bank on Stafford being there for all 16 games. He's a very durable quarterback, despite what his early career suggested. They're going to be more balanced because they have DeAndre Swift. They have Carry-On. They have Hawkinson, who's going to be, you know, ascending a little bit, getting older. He showed flashes, and then Marvin Jones is there. I think, to me, Kenny Golladay is the type of guy that I would bet on those lulls going away and just having more peaks. And he is just like, I talk a lot about respect in my rankings, and I know that that's ridiculous, but I don't do projections, so I just go off of how I feel and my gut feeling. And I genuinely just believe Kenny, I have him at 6, and that was a bump up from a few weeks ago when I was on a different podcast, and I had him like at like 8 or 9. I think that the sky is the limit. I am in a standard league, not a non PPR, and I believe
Those still exist.
Yeah, they do. It's like my 10-year keeper league. It's been going on forever. All my college buddies, and he finished as a wide receiver too, and he was awesome. And I will never forget that on Thanksgiving he put up like 4 for 121 and 2 touchdowns with David Blau. No,
wasn't that like in the first quarter or something? He put up 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, sorry, it was 4 for 158 and 1. And I remember just hating myself and deciding I'm never going to go against Kenny anymore. I'm forever ingratiated to him, even though I benched him that week. And here I am. He is my flag guy. I am planting my flag in him. I will take him everywhere I can, except for in the drafts where he's not going to fall to me.
Fun story. I started David Blau and Scott Fishbowl that week, the Thanksgiving game. Yeah, because I had Stafford in that league. I had Roethlisberger in that league. I was down to Kyler Murray. I had Minshew for a little bit. I think one of them got hurt, and I had to start Blau, and I think I had Matt Moore on my bench at one point. It was not pretty at quarterback, but let's keep going with Kenny Golladay. Sam, what are your thoughts on Golladay as far as Stafford coming back and that offense gelling together again?
I mean, I'm definitely excited that they have a healthy quarterback back in their whole scheme. It's always going to be helpful to the entire offense to have their main guy back, and also good to see that the Lions had the full confidence to keep Stafford, not to go and pull Tua in the middle of the draft. So glad that they still have their flag planted in Stafford, so we can all have that confidence as well. Also didn't realize that Golladay was the touchdown leader in 2019 with 11 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's despite having an injured quarterback. So that's also really awesome. He's just a player that I feel like I tend to forget about, and I feel bad about it now. I mean, the way that, Gary, that you just spoke about him, I feel like, I will have him on more Post-its this year. That is what I will do. I will have Kenny Golladay on more of my Post-it notes next to wherever I'm drafting. Because, I feel bad that I keep forgetting about this guy. But, if Stafford's healthy, he's his guy. So you love the volume and you love that connection. And it's definitely, if you want a top 10 receiver, he's slotted right there in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in on Kenny Golladay. I love the guy. I really do. I think, in 16, if Stafford can play, those 16 games, he has proven he's been durable. I think Golladay and Marvin Jones, who everybody's sleeping on too, he's going way too low in drafts. He's just, 7th round. I honestly
tell people about him. That's when I snag him. Don't tell people.
But let's go to DJ Moore, and I know Gary is not the highest on DJ Moore. We've been talking about this for weeks upon weeks. So, Gary, I want to go to you one more time here. What's the deal?
So, like, he did really well last year, right? And he had Kyle Allen, and that offense was confusing, and he did really well. He had 87 catches, 1175, and 4 touchdowns. And now we're upgrading to Teddy Bridgewater. We're upgrading to a new OC. We're upgrading to a new head coach. I don't know. Like, everybody is so hyped on him. I said that Godwin and DJ Moore would be two of my lowest owned wide receivers out of the top 12. And it's just because the cost, there are other players going around. There's other running backs going around. There's just in where I'm going to be able to get him in the draft, which is so 401, according to fantasy football calculators. It's probably just, I don't know. I don't know if I see the upside. He's a nice PPR floor, but I'm nervous about the touchdowns. Everybody, Curtis Samuel last year, it was who's the 1A and who's the 1B. And obviously it became DJ Moore, but who's to say that Curtis Samuel doesn't come back in and be more of a prominent role? This is clearly Christian McCaffrey's team. We'll see what Teddy can do. A lot of reports coming out saying they're going to be throwing deeper. That's why they went and got Robbie Anderson. I think people are going to be disappointed with DJ Moore from what they think he can do. I think they'll be okay with him as their wide receiver too. I'd rather have like Robert Woods or something. I feel like he's safer to me, even though he has less sex appeal.
You don't think Robert Woods has sex appeal?
Right? I bought his damn jersey, Gary.
That's because you have sex appeal and you want to be just anyway.
Minuscule. The jersey helps, but so as far as DJ Moore, it was a bit curious to see them add Robbie Anderson with Curtis Samuel there. I thought those two kind of skill wise, they both kind of clash, but I'm in on it a little bit more because I feel like if they really felt so strongly about Curtis Samuel, which they really should. I mean, he was Matt Harmon, he was one of his favorite receivers last year in reception perception. And I feel like if they felt stronger about Samuel, they wouldn't go out and pay big bucks for Robbie Anderson. So thinking about how they want to use those guys, we all know DJ Moore is a yak monster. I only think that, Anderson and Samuel are going to stretch the field a little bit more. So I think really the benefit, it'll benefit Ian Thomas. It'll benefit DJ Moore. It'll benefit McCaffrey, at least keeping that middle of the field open or as open as it can be, because they're going to be throwing a lot. That defense is bad. Like, it's going to be all-time bad, especially look at the offenses you have to play in your division. Yeah. Falcons, Saints, Bucks. Are you kidding me? There's going to be some 50 burgers in that division.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, given the state of that division. But I think for me, I don't have DJ Moore in my top 12. And it's for all the reasons that you mentioned, Gary. It's just there's far too many new things. And I want to see this system click together before I get fully on board. I mean, yeah, DJ Moore had an amazing year last year. I felt like every time I played him, he didn't do what I needed him to do. So maybe I'm just a little bit bitter about it, and that's why I won't put him higher. However, yeah, he's going to have the volume, but there's too many factors here that have potential to take targets away, that have potential to just see the whole system and how he's been used change completely. So that's why I'm not buying into him being towards that top 10 for me.
Can I ask you one question, since you agree with me on that, is with waiting to see the system click, do you feel the same way about CMC? Are you hesitant with having CMC as your one-on-one?
I'm not hesitant with having him because he proved himself in being able to. He's a video game cheat code. He's a cheat code. He does whatever the hell he wants and continues to do it. I mean, we saw him just absolutely light up the field last year, and he did it the year before too. And I just don't see that slowing down. If anything, when they get in the thick of it, and if Bridgewater, is having any issues, he's going to be dumping it off to him. Yeah. So I don't see his targets, his attempts, his rushes, his carries. I don't see any of that taking a dip. It's the receiving game that I'm a little bit more hesitant about, and that's just because Bridgewater's new to this system. The system is new to everyone. Everything that everyone knows is get the ball to Christian McCaffrey. So besides that, I don't know what else I can truly hang my hat on there.
Totally. And the other thing that Kevin, you said, I just have to say, Ian Thomas, for anybody that's doing what I do, which is just punt on tight end, like Ian Thomas is gold. Like I think he's going to be a top 12 and top 15, but probably top 12 tight end. And I'm more than happy to wait on him. And I think that he will take a little bit away from Moore. So
yeah, I could see that.
That's spicy. That's spicy, Gary.
Spicy.
I want to just kind of segue because I know Gary has the 101 in Scott Fishbowl with that
shit.
week 13 bye. I'm just going to put it out there. Does that
Yeah.
give you any pause with Christian McCaffrey?
So I actually tweeted about this. So the Panthers are 101 are week 13, and so are the Bucks.
Yep.
And there's two schools of thought, and I don't know if the second one holds any credence, but the first one is like, whatever, we'll just figure it out when we get there. Like, I'm not going to be too worried about it. But the second one is, well, shit, like I could get an entire season without my bye weeks. I get an added week of points if you're in a league that has your playoffs week 13 and if you can get a bye in week 13. So specifically for Scott Fish or anything else out there, my players, CMC is not going to have a bye. I've actually wavered on him back and forth, and we won't go into that. But I think at this point, I'm not going to worry about it. I don't really care about bye weeks anyway, short of best ball leagues that are like super flex. I'm rarely ever going to care about bye weeks. I'll figure out that stuff later. If I can't trade, it's different. But if I can trade and it's just in a regular normal league, I don't care about bye weeks when I'm drafting.
Gotcha. And so now we're getting to my favorite part of these wide receiver rankings. Gary knows. Let's talk some Allen Robinson because that's all I'm gonna say right there. He doesn't hold a candle to the next guy, but Allen Robinson. Let's just get into some of the stats here. First among wide receivers in his man coverage success rate, 79.3, 27% target share, 39% air yard share, third highest contested targets, with a 58.3 contested catch rate, which was top 10. The Bears have the easiest strength of schedule amongst their wide receiver group this season. Why is he not going in the second? And I'm just going to say this. Let's keep him down in that third, fourth round. But is he a guy that really needs to be moving up draft boards, Sam?
I mean, like you just said, why are you going to hype him up so that you can't get him where you want to get him? Don't tell people about your secrets. This is
Smoke
the problem
screens.
about podcasters. I mean,
You got like
I do it all the
15,000
time.
viewers. They're not going to change stuff too much. Did I say 15,000? I think I meant 15.
If we got 15,000, there's crazy shit going on.
The guys in my big dynasty league, they're always like, wait, so Sam, who do you, because I don't have any first round picks in our rookie draft this year. And they're like, who do you think is going to go number one? I'm like, oh, Cole Kmet, obviously. Like, yeah, definitely take him first. Sure. And they're like, no, seriously. I'm like, no, take him. Yeah, the Bears definitely drafted an extra tight end for a reason. Why else would they do it? There's totally sense to it. So I try and just like say other things. And I'm like, if you guys really want to know what I think, listen to my podcast. But like, like your friends normally do. They're like, can you just give me like the Cliff Notes? And I'm like, no, you got to hit subscribe before I give you the Cliff Notes. Then I'll give you the Cliff Notes. Because that's how we got to play it. But no, I agree. I think that Robinson has got a really, really great floor. And I love that it obviously sounds like you're not worried about the quarterback position, obviously changing that for him. I don't think it changes anything for me either. If anything, it just kind of helps. It keeps it from going a dip to just, I don't see it going crazy much higher. It's not like Nick Foles was, shattering ceilings on statistics at any point in his career. He did make him, he's very efficient when he needs to be, but he hasn't played the full season. We haven't seen full Nick Foles, but he's not a step down. And I think that that's all you want for your number one receiver is for him not to take a step down. So I think that he'll be just fine.
He's Teddy Bridgewater.
He's Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, he's better than Bridgewater. Come on. If he's playing, I think he's better than Bridgewater.
That's your response?
Okay, Bridgewater has a far better smile than Nick Foles. How dare you?
I honestly thought I was going to get slammed for that. No, I like the fact that with a competent quarterback, you're getting at bare minimum nothing worse. And
no pun intended.
To Foles, it's last year's quarterback. So again, If Trubisky comes in and Trubisky's playing for his job, what the hell is he going to do? He is going to hyper target Robinson even more than he already did.
One lead.
I also, just side note, I think that Foles is like an awesome QB2/3 for any league.
Yeah, I think he has good potential. I think if I had to choose a QB2, I might pick Cam over him. Just based on what I've seen them
for
able to
the
do.
ceiling.
Yeah, just for that floor, the potential ceiling is higher, I think, with Cam as a QB2 than it is with Foles.
Montgomery, Cohen, Miller, Robinson,
there's a lot of
a
weapons.
stable of tight ends that might be in there on
Stable.
any given play.
Stable is accurate.
So what?
They have a
So
water
what
polo team of tight ends.
Sorry. So what quarterback would you guys prefer for maximizing Robinson's value, Foles or Trubisky?
Foles, because I feel like you're not going to have as many interceptions as you would with Trubisky.
It's a contract year. It'll be interesting to see what happens
yeah.
if he decides not to re-sign with them. There are some awesome teams he could go with. Believe it. Imagine Breeze doesn't retire and that he becomes the new Manny Sanders. I know I'm just like throwing that out there. It's never going to happen. But my God, Robinson and Thomas, like, so amazing. Sorry, guys.
Be crazy. No, that's what this is all about. We're just daydreaming about having amazing fantasy teams. That's all I love. Give me the points.
And then I'm sitting here with my favorite stack of Allen Robinson and Robert Woods, who if you're a stranger to my Twitter feed, it's a Robert Woods fan account at this point.
Hashtag on brand.
Damn right it's on brand. I mean, just so I understand, and a lot of people have said this about, it's been much to do about the 12 personnel change in the last part of 2019 for the Rams, and they're not going to be playing full on 12 personnel. I get that. They're going to be playing mostly 11, with their guys, but Robert Woods really came on last year with not only just snap rate, but his red zone targets. He came on with just, his floor was gargantuan. Cup came off the field a lot. Where are you on Robert Woods, Sam? You're probably not as lofty as I am. I mean, the rankings, with that, but how do you feel about Robert Woods?
I do love Robert Woods. I have him in the league that I won my championship in last year, and couldn't sing his praises more and be more grateful for the rushing usage that none of us saw coming. Yeah. That definitely helped and certainly escalated his point totals. But I just don't. What I don't like about the Robert Woods talk is not that I don't love Robert Woods. I absolutely do. But I feel like people are now forgetting about Cooper Kupp because the love has gone too far, and I just think that the amount of receptions, the amount of targets between them, it's splitting hairs and getting real close. And I think that going into this next season, we're going to see a very even, target share between them. So I think that Cooper Kupp is still the number one there. I think that Robert Woods is just very usable in different ways. And I think that McVay likes to be clever in that way. And that's great and helps his floor a lot. But I just don't see him breaking the top 10 for me. Obviously, Kupp, Woods, and Cooks had some good value there for a bit. Cooks is gone now, so then targets have to go somewhere. But I actually see them going to Tyler Higbee, who was seeing a big surge at the end of last season. And, you can have lots of success with multiple receivers there in LA. So I love that. But I love him. Absolutely love him. I totally understand the love. Appreciate it. However, I think it's gone a little far. I think we need to take a breath, maybe smoke a cigarette, just have a breather. I don't think it's going to be that crazy this year. It's going to be good. It's not going to be that good.
I think the Woods love is gone up too much in the same proportion that the Kupp love has gone down too much. Wasn't he wide receiver 2 halfway through the season or through week 6? I know I traded a King's ransom to get him, and I was so happy when I did. And then he sucks the second half of the season. So if they can both find their happy medium and be a 1A, 1B, I think that you could have 2 top 15 receivers. I just don't know which one would be top 12.
I agree. I think that at the end of the season, I wouldn't be shocked to see that Robert Woods ended up being the number 1 there. But as of right now, they're just so close for me and ADP. They're literally right behind each other. I mean, in top 15, they're 13, 14, right there. They're just right behind each other. And it's great that you can draft them that way. When one of them falls to you, you're going to basically get a really well discounted wide receiver 1, like you said, 1A, 1B. So you're going to get a lot out of them for that value where you're going to get them. I'm just worried that the Robert Woods hype has gone up too high, that it's going to ruin the ADP for me and then mess up everything for me.
Yep, and we've seen Woods' ADP at least in this last month. According to Fantasy Football Calculator, he's gone up almost a full round from, I believe it was 503, and he's up to 407 now in PPR. So I think a lot of people are starting to take notice of Robert Woods, and he's been getting a lot of hype on Twitter. I know it's a very small subset of people, but you know that's very significant for a month. Aside from like an injury spiking or, tanking ADP, going up that significantly that quick in June is nothing to scoff at. And I will also say weeks 1 through 8, Gary, Cooper Kupp was wide receiver 5. And Woods, he was wide receiver 5. Woods was wide receiver 31. And then 9 through 17, Kupp was wide receiver 30. And Woods was wide receiver 10 in those stretches. That's
the Rams. That's the Rams. They're going to have this surge. Someone's going to get hurt, and then they're going to have to shift the way they play it to try and make the playoffs. That's why you saw that shift. They're scrambling.
So the biggest point in Kevin's favor, I think, is that you have him this high. And if you're listening to a podcast in June, you are more July 1st, you're more than just an avid home leaguer. You're doing additional stuff. Come August, so on Fantasy Football Calculator, the other wide receivers that, we haven't discussed Evans, but Thielen, Beckham, Cooper, Juju, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley are all going before him. You're going to be able to get him in the 5th round. Shit, you might even be able to get him.
You will. I mean, and that's the thing. We can't overhype him. We're going to ruin the value of getting him late when we can sneak him away from people, which is what I did last year. So let's I mean, I get it. I love him, but stop telling everyone about it.
We should whisper when we talk about Robert Woods moving forward.
We just need to poach Sam because she is clearly the voice of reason between us three.
Guys, it's great, but stop telling everyone our secrets.
I have a question for the voice of reason. Ooh. Amari Cooper at 7, right behind Galladay, right ahead of Godwin. I don't even have Cooper in my top 12 just because I don't know what the hell to do with him. Neither does Kevin. So, give us your pitch.
Give you guys my pitch on Amari Cooper. Well, I think that when we saw him go to Dallas, I think a lot of us were like, okay, finally, we're going to be able to see him maybe get unlocked. And I think that for me, what Cooper's move there did was unlock my opinion of Dak Prescott as well. So I feel like he's just an amazing weapon for him, and he's been utilizing him, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. What I also love is that the addition of CeeDee Lamb is going to open up the field even more for him. So we're going to get even more top-end speed out of Cooper. He's got that in him. I know that he had, I think it's the plantar fasciitis that was bothering him when he was in Oakland. But you know what? When you have that young blood in there to help open up the field, it's just a potential for amazing amount of yards and volume. So I love that. And I think that Prescott is just someone he's not going to take his foot off the gas when it comes to the amount he's going to throw, the yards. And so I just love that volume that you're going to get with him. So for me, having Cooper where I have him is just forcing me to not forget about the great potential I'm going to get with Prescott this year, because I feel like I keep forgetting about him in my rankings. I get too excited about other quarterbacks. And for me, I end up moving Prescott around. Maybe it's because I'm just not a big Cowboys fan. I still like the Cowboys. But, it's forcing me to remember, no, this guy is worth remembering, and he's worth someone that you want to take higher. So that's why I definitely want to get him. He's got to be in the top 10 for me. And, I mean, we're all adjusting our rankings as we go, because I feel like with COVID, all of us have nothing better to do than speculate and move people around our boards anyways. So by the time we get to August, if we have a season, fingers crossed, Cooper might be higher, he might be lower for me.
Sounds to me like you're just not that high on Dak, to be perfectly honest.
I'm not.
Everybody has him like consensus 3, so
yeah. Everyone's got him really high, and maybe I just am not that high on Prescott. But this is forcing me to know, Sam, look at the numbers. Stop it. Stop my nonsense. And I need to look at the numbers, be smart about this, and not have my bias mess me up about the great potential fantasy value they have.
Yeah.
So as far as the Dallas trio there, those wide receivers, how do you see that target distribution shaking out? Because I don't think I can really, because I'm starting to do projections now. So I'll be getting to Dallas pretty soon. So I can't see a world where Cooper's getting maybe 110 to 115 targets. Maybe that might be his cap. I think they're going to all cannibalize each other. I just don't think that you can really. I think Lamb is a value. I've got Cooper, I believe, at 15.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the distribution?
I mean, the distribution's interesting, but I think, it's like my economics teacher said in high school, and it's the only thing I remembered in class: supply and demand. It's all you need to remember. But it's true. I think where there is a supply, you're going to get the demand. It's going to go back and forth. So I'm looking at the stats just from 2019 between Gallup and Cooper, and they both had over 1,000 yards. So you got to love that. And I think that having someone like Lamb is just going to help that. Now, maybe it takes away some of the yards for Gallup, and maybe they kind of, like you said, cannibalize each other a little bit. I could maybe see, based on the season that we're looking to have, which is one where the rookies come in a bit later than they normally do as far as having like a spike, just because they need to get familiar with the offense. So maybe this is a case where first 5-6 weeks we see Gallup being the surefire wide receiver 2. By the end of the season, CeeDee Lamb ends up taking over the wide receiver 2 position, but they kind of go back and forth, and both end up with something close to around the 900 to 1,000 yards by the end of the season. Cooper having the immediate number 1 though.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely.
I think it makes sense. I think the ultimate debate for anybody is, how are you willing to take somebody that has the seesaw, third time now, but that has the ups and downs that supposedly Amari Cooper has. I have said early in the offseason when when CeeDee Lamb was drafted, that I agree with you. I think young blood, again, just from the narrative style, like CeeDee Lamb's going to come in there, and I actually think he's going to make Amari Cooper play better. I just think having that competition, like Michael Gallup's awesome, but like CeeDee Lamb is being, he's the next DeAndre Hopkins, and he doesn't even touch the field type thing. And I think that's going to make everybody play better, because they want to, if nothing less, like they want to be better than this dude type thing. So
yeah, and I think the different offenses in the NFL have that very obvious, 2 wide receivers are kind of, the perfect mix for them. Someone that we're probably going to get onto next very quickly is Adam Thielen, and I think that he's going to see a lot of benefit in having Justin Jefferson there, because when he had his great year with Diggs, they were a 1-2 punch, and I think that there's nothing better than a 1-2 punch here in Dallas. And I think, like you said, it's just going to be that dynamic of where does Gallup meet the split with Lamb, and I think it's going to be one taking the beginning and one taking the end of the season. So that's how I feel like that's going to play out. But I feel like Cooper's going to stay with that number 1. It's just having that rapport with the quarterback, and that he's him being the go-to guy and having the success they did last year. I just don't see that new relationship taking that over.
Kevin, if I may, something that Sam just said kind of makes me want to move to the next thing, and that's the rapport with the quarterback, and that's Juju. We'll come to Adam Thielen after that. Then we have I think one more after that. But so with Juju, you're a Steelers fan, and rapport with the quarterback is probably the definition of last year. No, because I don't know if they were considered quarterbacks. They were just people that were behind the offensive line, had the ball, and were trying to throw it, or at least
they had the ball in their hands and they had to pass it.
Yeah,
they had to make a forward motion.
Yeah, they're a penny back, not a quarterback.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Juju? Like, where do you think his season is going to go? We've seen, God damn, he's been so good before, and then last season was not.
Yes. So I get this question a lot because I'm a Steelers fan, but I am very excited about Juju Smith. He's healthy. Our quarterback is healthy. The team is healthy, and the dynamic is there. Now, I had to go back in the stats because I'm trying to just forget about 2019. But in 2018, Juju was splitting targets with Antonio Brown. And despite splitting targets with him, he had an insane season. He was 8th in total PPR points, and he was 5th in total yards. That was while sharing those targets with Antonio Brown. So just based on that ability to capitalize that, you're automatically pushing him higher in overall targets and the value and the floor that he's going to have. Now, I get the question also, who's going to be the wide receiver behind him that takes over that number 2 position? Well, I kind of feel like it's a bit open. I do love Deontay Johnson, but I also love James Washington. I love Chase Claypool. I think that's a great addition. Speaking to volume, though, the Steelers do great with volume. They love spreading the ball around, tons to go around. I think there's potential for a lot of these players. So if you're going to be picking up another wide receiver and you're hoping for a good wide receiver too, I think Deontay Johnson is a great one. However, I'm trying to take flyers on Washington and Claypool wherever I can, just because I know that one of them is also going to have a breakout later in the season, and maybe it's going to be game dependent, but I just love the idea of what they're going to be able to do with a healthy Ben under center. So I talked really fast without breathing for a little bit, but it's because I'm excited. I'm very excited about my team.
I've seen so many comps to, well, is Deontay Johnson going to be this year's Dante Pettis? And I think the almost better option is Deontay Johnson going to be this year's Curtis Samuel, you know, with the DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel thing from 1A, 1B last year and kind of going into it. Juju has a better pedigree, but I don't know. Like I can see Deontay Johnson being a byproduct of he would just happen to mesh well with backup quarterbacks because he was maybe a little bit further down the roster and got a little bit more work with them. I don't know anything about the
exactly
actual
what it. Honestly, I think exactly why he had so much success last year was because he had so much rapport with these backup quarterbacks. That's not to say that he's not going to have success this year. I definitely think he will because, like I said, Ben has volume in that cannon that he has, and apparently it's feeling good and healthy. So I'm ready to watch him rip it. Ready to see Juju take a flying leap up the ADP and up the charts, and I want him to just finish like wide receiver 1 for the year. I want my team to win. That's all I've ever wanted.
9 touchdowns, Eric Ebron.
That might happen. I mean, he's going super late, but it's got to feel good, at least as a Steelers fan, to know that they have so much confidence in Ben with his injury, with Tommy John. They didn't go out and get anybody. They didn't sign to Jameis Winston. They didn't, they have to be feeling very confident in getting, the usual 14, 15 games out of Ben Roethlisberger. He's going to miss a game. He always does, but
he always does. He always, but you know what? That's why we love our quarterback. It's because he can still complete a pass with broken ribs, a broken hand, and a broken foot, and he can still take a hit after all that. So, I mean, that's why we love him.
Steel mill quarterback.
By the way, did I see? Is that a Truly that I saw?
Yeah, I've got a passion fruit Truly today. Cheers.
I've got the lemonade. Cheers.
Ooh,
that's right.
The lemonades are so good.
All right. While you guys are choosing,
Truly.
Yeah, so the next person, at least on my list, and also your list, because we've kind of talked about everyone else, is Adam Thielen. So I have Thielen at 9. You have Thielen at 11, and you earlier said that you think that Jefferson is going to be a big boon, something that's going to really help him. He obviously, had a down 2019. He had some injuries, but my God, was his 2018 just the craziest, strangest thing. In 2018, he was on pace to break records through the first 8 weeks. First 8 weeks, he had 100 yards every week and had a touchdown in all but 2 weeks. And then he kind of, trailed off a little bit, but to me, he's really the forgotten receiver this year. He's just going way too low right now. He's looking at, damn it, it's not that low. I guess he's wide receiver 9. For some reason, I thought he was lower even, but
I think it's because nobody's talking about him, to your point. I think, and that I'm fine with people not talking about him. Don't talk about him. I'll take him in a round where you're not expecting me to take him. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I mean, again, he was someone that I had to go back to 2018 to look at their stats because he was dinged up in 2019 and just kind of messed up with the whole thing. But again, I do think Justin Jefferson is going to be a boon to his fantasy volume and value. 2018, he was the 7th in PPR total points, and he was 8th in total yards. And I think that Diggs at that time was literally just a couple spots right behind him. So you have a lot of potential volume there. Now, obviously, with the Vikings, they are a great running team. Dalvin Cook is clearly going to eat, but Dalvin Cook could also get hurt, and they could need to go and throw it a lot. They could get behind.
He could hold out.
And the holdout. So that little thing where he might just not play. And then you have to scoop up Alexander Madison. Just make sure you grab him too, because you never know. But given that, I do think that Thielen is going to have a good high floor. And he's someone that, if you end up getting him as your wide receiver too, that's a really great grab for your wide receiver too.
Totally. You're not worried about like Kevin,
Okay.
about the best tight end in the NFL, Irv Smith Jr.? I had to throw that bone to Kevin.
I'm not losing sleep over it.
Oh, you're missing out. But I'm just worried. I'm worried with Thielen because of his soft tissue injury, the hamstring, being an older receiver. He's going to be 30 by the time if we have a season. And I think we've seen the best of Adam Thielen. If he has to play outside, he's not great at winning outside. If he's got to stick in the slot, and while Jefferson was a really good slot receiver at LSU, I think they're kind of mix and match there. But as far as Thielen, I like him. I'm warming up to him more. With that injury, it gives me some pause, but he's gonna get fed. He's gonna see if he's out in the field, he's gonna see just 9 targets a game, 8-9 targets a game. He's gonna get 140. He's gonna be out there. Kirk Cousins is as underrated a quarterback as there is, at least in fantasy, as far as getting that ball out to guys. Thielen, he's a really I don't know if I trust him as my wide receiver one. I was going to do an article on him, and I had to think about that a little more because I've been doing it's called Value Town, where I talk about Calvin Ridley and Robert Woods as far as guys that you can maybe take in that 4th, 5th round and feel good as their wide receiver one. I have some pause with Thielen with that, but I'm more than happy to take him as my wide receiver too. I just don't know if we can depend on him and his soft tissue injuries with that in such a run-heavy Kubiak offense. Now,
I think you need to do that article with Thielen.
I want to read it.
Says you should, because Thielen's above those other two.
I just don't know. I've got the one in the works right now with DJ Chark. Actually, I'm really going deep into DJ Chark right now, and I really like what I'm seeing. So that'll be in the pipeline, but. I just don't know about Adam Thielen as far as if I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know if I can trust a 30-year-old wide receiver with soft tissue injuries. Like I said, I think we've seen the best of him. I really do.
I hope we haven't seen the best of him. I mean, you're definitely painting a picture that's kind of Jordy Nelson-esque, where he goes to another team and then you're like, oh no, but you were a thing for a while. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping we can get at least one more good year, one more great year of Thielen with a healthy Thielen. But I also think it's just too funny, and I said this on Twitter, I think, earlier today. But as soon as these guys hit that 30 range, when I hit 30, I was just terrified. What's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm going to tear my ACL. Like, why? You don't do these things. You lift weights at the gym. You're not going to tear an ACL. I'm like, but I'm 30. That's what this means. You tear ACLs when you're 30. I pull a hamstring. I did pull my quad, but I'm just saying, like, these are injuries that you get in your 30s, but you gotta hope that they've got good enough medical staff, and I'm confident enough in their abilities, more so than my own, to keep their 30-year-olds healthy. So I'm sure that he's going to be okay, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to hopefully be able to play well off of Justin Jefferson, and they're going to each see a good high floor.
I will say the NFC North, man, you get Adams, Robinson, or Galladay, Robinson, Thielen. I feel like Galladay is actually the odd one out there. You have 3 really high floor PPR guys. Matter of what touchdowns end up getting there, and that's kind of why you have them. Adams, Robinson, then Thielen, and man, one just seems to be the poorer version of the other. And yet, all 4 of them, it would not shock anybody if they ended up all 4 top 12.
Sure, yeah. You could easily see that. Actually, this weekend we did. We like to do micro drafts on when we have the whole fantasy focus crew together. So what we do is we say you can only take 1 player at each position. And so you get total 4 players: quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, and you have to go only in a division. And once you've picked that division, you can't go back and take someone else from that round. So we literally just did that, and it was really nail biting because you're getting to that end and you're like, none of us want to take tight end, but at the same time, it gets really difficult to try and pick across that. I'll try and find in my notes and see who I took because it was a lot of fun.
I remember I was watching that. Didn't you end up, I believe, Cole Kmet as your
Did I take him?
As tight end? I think you had the first pick, I believe.
On an unrelated
I think I took Dalvin Cook, and I think I took Allen Robinson and
Stafford,
and then I went with Sternberger. That's what I did. Yeah, I found it. Yeah, I went Stafford, Robinson, Dalvin Cook, and Sternberger.
On an unrelated note, way to go with the legal pads and this day and age, still using pen
People make fun of me for these things all the time. I have like 10 of them. I love writing notes. I'm a notes fiend.
That's the Steve Rappin legal pad, by the way.
Yeah, this is terrible. And then my friends get mad at me. Like, I look at a computer all day because I'm a graphic designer. So it's like at the end of the day, I just cannot get myself to stare at another screen. And I'm like, no, if I get a green highlighter, I can filter myself. I'm fine.
That's awesome.
I know. I just can't. I can't do spreadsheets. I just get over it too fast.
Gravity ladder makes sense.
So there's one wide receiver I want to talk about, and then we can conclude matters here. And that's someone that I don't believe any of us have in our 12. I'm looking, and we don't. Where did Odell Beckham go?
Where did he go?
13.
I don't know.
This isn't about Odell, in my opinion. Like, this is about Baker. This is about the Browns. This is about it's like the shit-stained Browns, right? Like, it's about them and seeing what they can actually do and put together. If Baker can come back to what he looked like he could do pre-Kitchens, then I wouldn't be shocked if Odell's a top 6 wide receiver. I'm just not going to rank him there.
Yeah, I'm not going to, I've got to see it. To me, Odell Beckham is too much of a wait and see kind of person. And he's someone that we've all just been burned too many times in the past to overrank him. And just with the way that Landry performed last year, if you can get that value and get someone like him so late, why would I bother wasting a pick on Odell Beckham?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I also completely agree. I think that this is more of a Baker issue than anything else. And if he can get his stuff sorted out, then maybe, I will move Beckham up, have an article about him, get the hype going, rekindle that fire. However, I am not going anywhere near him this season. And I've had a couple people offer him for trades, and I don't want it. I don't want to deal with the headache. I don't want to wonder. And I also don't want to see someone like Landry get more targets, get more, touchdowns than someone like Beckham. It's just, I don't want to be burned again. No, I'm done.
Yeah, they were talking about on the open bar last night. Love those guys, J. Mike and Gabe and them, talking about what receivers you could conceivably see as the overall wide receiver one. And Peter Howard, I believe it was him that said Beckham is absolutely with the talent. There is no question. Is he? I'm trying to think of, obviously outside the top 4 or 5, but is there anybody else that we haven't mentioned that could conceivably be that overall wide receiver one? I mean,
I think it's easiest to listen. So Thomas, Adams, Hill, and Hopkins and Julio, would we all say could be the wide receiver one this year?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Galladay and I think that Godwin could be.
I think Evans can be too.
I think, Evans could be.
The number one?
Yeah, the wide receiver one.
The wide receiver one. I can't see Godwin or Evans being the wide receiver one. I could see Galladay, maybe. I could see Julio if, like you said, Matt Ryan has a good year. But also, Tyreek Hill, he could easily be the wide receiver one this year, just based on the way that Mahomes plays and based on the way that the Chiefs are shaped and ready to go for this season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a great piece to add to that mix. If anything, all the more reason to open up the field for someone like Hill to just run away with it, literally, to take the number one spot. So I think he's easy one to guess. Aside from the ones that we've talked about, there's none that really jump out to me that could take that number one. Are there others that could immediately jump in the top 10? Absolutely. Julian Edelman can easily break the top 10. If Cam Newton is healthy, has a great arm, I definitely see Julian Edelman being able to just go back into that top 10 position. But I do not see anyone that it'd be really hard for me to guess someone to jump out at number one that we haven't already talked about.
My dark horse, and I've said this multiple times in the offseason, is DK Metcalf. I think that
Sure.
I know, but I think that like he could easily go over. He could do 12 to 16 touchdowns. I don't think that would be crazy whatsoever. And I think that he could easily get to 11, 12, 1,300 yards, 1,200 yards. I also think that is because if Chris Carson's hip isn't right, they're not going to lean on Hyde to do what they want to do with that offense. And if Penny is on the PUP and he doesn't come back until 6, 7, 8, even like week 10, then all of a sudden, like they're going to open up Russell Wilson and see what they can do. Not see what they can do. They know what they can do. But Russell Wilson could rely on them a bunch more. And you have Lockett to kind of be the more slot guy and everything else. And DK just take the top off. AJ Brown is the other person that goes in conversation with me anytime I say DK's name. I just don't think they don't strike me as a team that has the prolific passer. Russell Wilson is a top 3 passer. Maybe top 5 if you want to stretch it in the NFL, but I think he's top 3 as much as it pains me. He's awesome. He deserves all the respect he gets. And so DK going with that. Didn't DK do like 907 last year as a rookie?
Yeah, something close to that.
Yeah, I could pull it up really quick. But yeah, I like that pick too. You know, love DK, love his abs. I love what he's capable of doing. Fantastic athlete. Love that guy.
Love his abs.
Love his abs. Who doesn't? Everyone does. But I mean, I like the idea of, you know, like you said, can't get the game going again based on how we're scrambling at running back last year. I see them just being like, screw it. We're just going to unload and just take over the receiving game. Because I don't see them wanting to do that running back dance again this year. But yeah, I do like the idea of Metcalf going higher. I could see him easily being top 10 if that happens. I don't know about number 1.
Like this is like we're just talking dark horse. I
like it though. I like it. It's not crazy.
Last year, he could totally bump that up. So I mean, AJ Brown, I think is in a similar boat. Some people would say like, what about Calvin Ridley if he like switched with? And I don't see that. I think that it takes a certain style of receiver, but with the quarterback to get there.
Yeah,
somehow we're still picking DK right now. This is weird.
DK had 58 receptions last year. Lockett had 82. He had 100 targets though, and Lockett had 110.
But again, as a rookie and deeper targets,
yeah,
he's gonna get
year 2, sophomore years tends to be better. You know where your locker is. You know it's not as scary, so tend to have a better sophomore year.
What would be DK's output if he got 80 catches?
Like
just based on that, it's going to be an extra.
Just based on that, you would just double it, so you'd have 1,800 yards. You'd be wide receiver 1 easy.
What did I say? I meant to say 80 catches, and he had 60. He had 58.
So if you double his receptions,
why are we doubling this?
If we're switching it.
No, so if DK had an extra 20 receptions,
he had an extra 20.
We're not mathematicians.
I was told there would be no math. I'm bad at math.
All right, so we're adding let's just say 25% in terms of his yardage and his touchdowns. And if you were to do that, let's just say you're getting to over 1,100.
Yeah.
And you're getting to 9, 10 touchdowns. That's not wide receiver 1, but that's only with an extra 20 receptions. Again, somehow I spent way too long at this whole DK thing.
I don't know. And then you saw my face trying to do math. That wasn't a good look.
Just so everyone's on the same page for listening at home, if you add 20 receptions for most wide receivers, you're not doubling their yardage.
Bad at math. Do not come to me for math. Me for the jokes alone.
Hashtag math fail.
Math fail. I'm terrible at math.
I just want to hit one more thing. I promise. Does Antonio Brown sign anywhere?
It's not the craziest thing in the world, but I think we had a listener's question this weekend, and they said who's going to be more likely to play in 2020, Josh Gordon or Antonio Brown, and I kind of still think it's Josh Gordon.
I kind of do too.
But I just think that the issues are very different on each player. There's a lot of risk, calculated risk for both. I think that there's a lot of teams that would rather take the calculated risk with Josh Gordon than Antonio Brown.
Yep. I don't think that the media fallout, we live in a different world when than last year, and I think the media fallout that would come from Antonio Brown is different. So
I'm just glad that Gary didn't pull out a calculator after she said that and try to keep going on that math thing.
Yeah, that would have just made me look more stupid than I already did trying to add 20.
That's not what we're here for, people.
I was told there'd be no math. Sam, how'd it go? That was terrible. I can't add.
Well, New York public education, what can you do? Already behind the 8 ball.
I'm an art major in college, you guys. I last took math in 2005.
Sociology. So just right there.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything we could, at least tonight. Sam, I really want to thank you. I'm glad we actually got to meet you and talk to you face to face after so many Twitter exchanges and all that. Hype yourself up. Put some respect on your name. Tell us what you're doing, where we can find you again.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. This was so much fun. I mean, like we're talking off air, the fantasy community is a very special community. And I love that, we're all so inclusive. We're all trying to, hype each other up and make sure everyone's looking at each other's content, because I think we're all putting great stuff out there. And I think it's because we all have such a great passion for fantasy sports and just for sports in general. And when you've got that much love behind it, how can you not have fun? Thanks again for having me on. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Samantha R. Holt. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Sam_awesome. And if you guys want to follow Fantasy Focused, please look us up on YouTube. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Fantasy Focused with 2 Ds. And we're always putting out great content. I have my fantasy debate show with my co-host Derek Tate on Saturdays. We're moving to Saturday nights. This Saturday, we're probably not going to have an episode just because it is 4th of July. But then the following week, we will have an episode. And we're actually going to have a special guest. Stepmom Lauren is going to join us for our show that Saturday. Nice. And then I'm actually going to be doing a guest spot on that big podathon that they're having. And I believe that Mike has put together. There's a lot of great guests in that lineup. So please tune in for July 11th. There's a huge podathon. A lot of people from all over. You guys will be there. Matthew Berry is going to be there. Stefania Bell is going to be on there. It's going to be a great show for a great cause to raise awareness and funds for mental health. So that's a great podcast as well. Please just tune in, subscribe. I always love subscribers. And at me on Twitter. If I post a GIF that you love, let me know. And if you say something you hate, I don't want to know about it, but that's okay. At me anyways.
Love it. Well, again, thank you, Sam. Really appreciate you having you on and getting to just talk shop with you. Gary, anything else before we sign off?
No, man. We might be back this weekend. We'll see. We're supposed to have a guest on, but he just had a kid, so we're not too sure. And if not, you'll be hearing us at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern on the SFB Podathon. We will be the voices you hear when the 101 kicks off and the SFBX drafts. I'm super excited. And thank you so much, Sam. It was awesome.
Thank you again. Anytime. I'll totally come back on.
Yes.
Awesome. I just hope I don't get super nervous on there and take like Gus Edwards or something. But all right.
Robert Woods, 101.
What's that?
Robert Woods 101. I declare Robert Woods.
Well, we'll see what that we'll see with that. I got a tough division. We got Ethan Turner from Fantasy Headliners, John Bauer. We're all stacked 1, 2, 3, 4. Drake, can't remember. I don't know how to say his last name. I want to say it's Piog, I think, something like that. But yeah, we're all stacked 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's gonna be we're gonna be cannibalizing each other as far as picks. So that should be something. But I'm gonna stop talking and we'll get out of here because people don't want to hear just me ranting. I've had one too many Trulies. So for Sam Holt, for Gary Haddow, I'm Kevin Tompkins. Thanks for checking us out, and I hope you all have a great night.
Have a great night, guys.